In this lesson, we'll begin building the base shape of the helmet. So here I've just got a viewport background image loaded in to our left-hand view, and feel free to use this if you like. It'll be included with your project files for this particular project. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it'll help us to kind of concentrate on some of the geometry aspects and not worry so much about the shapes, and we can kind of just match this up. Now the first thing we want to do is kind of think about the base shape of this helmet. And just looking at this off the top of our heads, it's kind of a spherical shape, but it does have a little bit of kind of flatness on the sides. We also have this the ear holes to contend with, as well as the shape coming down here. And we want to try to create the cleanest geometry possible. So we could start with a sphere and maybe have the pole up here, and you think, well, just cut this off and kind of extrude this down. But let's go ahead and start with actually a cylinder to do this in a little different way. And so we need to think about where we can put that pole geometry, okay, where all those lines come together. So we'll look at that. But let's go ahead and just draw out a cylinder. So I'm going to go to Create, Cylinder, and let's just draw it out right in the center here from the left-hand view. I'll just draw it out and add a little bit of thickness here. You can see that I can go ahead and just kind of scale this out. And it's right at the origin, so I'm only building half of this, so I can scale it out to kind of half the size that I want this helmet to be. And these can change as well, so don't worry too much about that. Let's go ahead and go to Modify. And I've got 18 sides on this. You want to make sure that you have enough resolution in here, because we are building something that is, supposed to be very contoured. If you build it too low res and you go in and try to add a resolution, it's going to make it a little bit harder to maintain that smooth shape. Although with some of the new graphite modeling tools, it's going to make things a little bit easier for us. But I'm going to go ahead and leave this to 18 sides. All right. The height segments, I'm going to go ahead and take those down, and maybe down to 3 or so. Okay, so we've got the kind of the profile of this part of the helmet, and down here is where it starts to give us trouble. All right, so let's go ahead and convert this to an editable poly. So I'll just right-click, editable poly, and now I'm going to go ahead and select a polygon subobject and select this end cap. Okay, so I've just got this side selected. So what I want to do now is go ahead and just scale this down. Okay, I'm just scaling it down uniformly, and I want to move it down so that the bottom of this can be used to define this part of the helmet right down here. So let me go ahead and jump in here. So I want to go ahead and just kind of move this roughly into position here. Okay, so you get something like that. Go ahead and turn that off. So this is going to be used to define this bottom edge here. Okay, so what we need to do now is go ahead and start to create the shapes in here. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe move this down to the end here. Okay, maybe move this over and just kind of roughly shape this using our image plane as a guide. Okay, maybe pull this back to the end here. Alright, now some of these polygons we aren't going to need anymore. So for those, we can go ahead and delete them. So go to our polygon subobject. This time I'm going to drag across these polygons. Go ahead and delete those. Drag across any of these polygons that we don't need here. So I'm going to just go ahead and grab all of these. So we're kind of left with this sort of a shape here. Alright, so looking at this, this is pretty thin for a helmet, so I'm going to go ahead and take this polygon out and just move it out to the width that we want. So go ahead and just move this out. Alright, you can see that that's very flat there. That's okay. So what we want to do now is go ahead and start to shape this, and also, oops, let me go back to my left-hand view. Shape it and add a little bit of geometry here. So I'm going to shape this bottom. So I'll come in, take this down to match up with the line that we have. Now a lot of this is going to match up fairly well, but then as we come up here, it's going to start to get away from that. All right. And let's go ahead and kind of move these up and out of the way. Out of the way of this the hole here. Okay, now we do want to create this hole. So if we take this polygon, now you can see it's misshapen, but we'll be able to fix that in just a second. We're going to use the graphite modeling tools, so I'm going to go ahead and display those. Just click on the little button here, and we've got our, go ahead and show full ribbon. There we go. And so what I want to do is go ahead and first just kind of extrude this down. Okay, so what we can do is go ahead and there's bevel, there's extrude, and there's inset. Let's go ahead and just inset that. Okay, so we've created an inset here, but you can see obviously it's not a circle. It was originally, now it's not. How do we get that to be a circle again? Well, we can use another option in our graphite modeling tools to actually change the shape of this. And that's going to be this guy right up here, the geopoly. So if we go ahead, and it's fairly close to what we want, it's just a little misshapen. If we go ahead and click this button, it's going to turn that into uniform shape, which in this case is the circle that we want. So now I can go ahead and bring this up into the right position. All right. And that can serve as our ear hole. Now you can see that it's looking pretty shabby here. So what we want to do is go ahead, and I'm going to take this loop here. Okay. And we can go under Modify Selection to select the entire loop. We can come in and manually start to shape this. So I can scale this down, and let's kind of move this over and down. So this is what you normally do. You just kind of manually fix the shape of this. You could do the same thing here. Kind of select that loop, kind of move it over and down. Okay. We can also come in from this side and begin to shape this a little bit more. So come in here and move some of these vertices around to get that kind of profile shape that we want. So this is going to come up here. Okay. And then back here, we can do the same thing. Need to kind of bring this up into position. Some of these can come in just to create that a nice curve. And we're doing all this manually, so there's really not a lot of guarantee that this is going to be nice and smooth, especially since we're working with something that should be fairly smooth here in this helmet. Okay, so one of the things that we can do to kind of help us tweak this shape is to use Set Flow and Flow Connect here in our with our some of our new modeling tools. So if we select, for instance, go ahead and select these edges. Go ahead and just select all of these around here. Okay, and then we can go up. We've got an edge selection here. If we now go up to the Set Flow, we go ahead and click on that, it will kind of push this line to create kind of a shape that matches up with the contour of the rest of the model. So if you've got a kind of a curve built in and one of the lines doesn't quite match up, you can use Set Flow to quickly change that line up. So you can see that it kind of popped it, cleaned it up a little bit, changed some of the shape here, which we'll want to go ahead and fix, but it really did a lot of work that we probably wouldn't want to do manually. So if we go ahead and now maybe click this next row and do the same thing, just kind of Set Flow on that, it's going to really start to smooth that out. Okay, so we can come in here and use this as well on this line here, and just kind of cleans everything up a little bit, matches it up with the flow. Now this time maybe we don't like that shape, maybe it hasn't really worked the way we wanted to, so we can come in and manually shape any of those things that we want. Now if we do want to say add an extra line in here, okay, so maybe we want to come in and add another loop in here, we can use Flow Connect, and that will actually connect loops and perform the set flow on them. Okay. So if we go ahead and select an edge, modify that selection to select the entire ring, and then do Flow Connect, you can see that it's not only dropped a new edge loop in there, but it's also modified that shape a little bit to try and maintain that curve. Okay. So if you need to add a little bit of extra geometry, but you're afraid that the shape is going to change on some of these curved surfaces that we're building, SetFlow and Flow Connect are great tools to be able to use to go ahead and modify that shape. Now if we come in here from the left-hand view again with this new geometry in here, and we can come in and just tweak this shape the way that we want to. So we really want this to come in here. We can go ahead and kind of move this up a little bit if we want to do that. Okay, now keeping in mind we're probably going to be going ahead and smoothing this, but we just want to come in and create that nice profile shape that we are trying to achieve here with our geometry. Okay, while still maintaining a nice smooth line on the helmet. Okay, we can come in here if you want to kind of clean this up just a little bit. Feel like the geometry is flowing a little bit, flowing up a little bit more than you would like. And come in and just manually change any of those things that you want to. None of these tools are going to replace your ability to come in and with your eye kind of look at some of these things and really customize those exactly the way that you want them. All right, they'll make your life easier for sure, but they're not going to take the place of any of that. So once we get our shape, basic shape for the helmet, and we've got the pole isolated here on the ear hole, we maybe go ahead and move some of these points over and just kind of space some of these out a little bit more. But once we've got that, the next thing we want to do is go ahead and add some resolution around this ear hole. All right, work that shape out, and then also add some resolution along the rim so that we can kind of pull that out and add some thickness there. So we'll go ahead and get to that in the next lesson.